Hello, welcome to a new video again. As usual, I'll first tell what I did wrong in this video before we get started. It was a nice Saturday. It was start of August, and my setup was a little bit different. I didn't have a jacket on because it was too warm, and as a result the camera is a little bit too low, so you see my phone and steering part of the bike a little bit too much. So that's kind of the end of the complaining. So what we're going to do today is kind of different than we did before, and I'm probably going to call this video moving into farmland or something like that. Because what I wanted to do, and I will only show that later in the video because I think it's more interesting to see how we get out of the city. And I didn't want to do the overlay and basically kill some nice views like we are doing now. We are going through a park, so I kind of detoured a little bit just to show you some interesting stuff. The three big sort of mounds which are there, which I'm going to cycle through, or am cycling through, which is kind of fun. You see on the one on the left that there's swings on top of it, so if you climb up you can go up to the swings and float in the air, if that makes sense. So we're going to get out of the city because what I'm going to do is Utrecht has been growing quite quickly. It's a very old city. It was started by the Romans in about 70 AD, yeah, it's been growing quite a lot, and we talked about it before, and I will show it later in a little bit of graph. It was kind of locked in because of highways and waterways. They kind of fixed that and started this area where we are now in, which is called Rijn. But I was looking at the map and seeing what can we record today, and I figured if you look at the Google overview, which I will show you later when we get out of the city, that you can kind of guess, although I haven't looked it up, but I kind of assume in 30 or 40 years that the second part of the city they are going to build is in a piece of farmland we are going to ride through today, because it gives you an idea about how much space that is, which is quite big, but also gives you a little bit of an idea about how it is to bicycle near a city, but basically in the farmland, how can you bike there, and is it very bikeable? And I think that was kind of interesting, especially compared to the video we did last week, which was about the F28 highway. So we are getting first out of this area, and this is kind of interesting because this road we are on is probably kind of the same type of road which have been there for a long time in the other areas, and you can see that the new parts of the city are built around it. So you can kind of see that also if you look at the map, that you can see all the new buildings, but once in a while you see some older buildings. So this was probably the same structure of farmlands and agriculture, and then with some homes on the street for the people who work there. And I'm not sure if we talked about it before, but in summertime, in addition in around Utrecht, you see a lot of building projects going on the bike path. So the downside for tourists in a way is that you get in summertime probably, I wouldn't say the worst, but you get sometimes some detours or some obstacles in your way because they take the time in the summer to because there's less traffic and less people commuting for work. They take the opportunity to fix some stuff. Luckily we didn't get any detours today, although I will be riding about 3 or 4 kilometers over unpaved roads, which is not something that I normally do, simply because I wanted to show you kind of in a wave the area that we are going to explore today. But first we're going to get out of the city. I forgot the timing, I think, well, it was yesterday, so I should not forget. But I recorded it, I think I left about 11 o'clock in the morning. The whole ride will be about 30 kilometers. And I missed the last 3 minutes and I didn't want to put in a new battery. So we get kind of back to the corner where the grey cars is coming from. And we just missed the last 2 minutes, but I didn't want to put a battery in. Are we actually going to ride there? So around this corner the recording will stop again. So it's almost a full loop that I'm going to show you. Remember, and I will put an overlay here that you can use subtitles to see where we are. So there are 2 subtitles, and again I will put it in the overlay that show you where we are, and you can also look at the chapter information and jump around in the timeline to sort of give extra information on the location, the satellite location, the street, the speed that we are going, how much we are below or above sea level. On the right we see the fake Roman fort. Of course it's fake. I always think it looks like it was built from popsicles, ice popsicles woods. It does hold some interesting objects, some of the old Roman ships that they found. Let me make it big so you can see it. So it's a museum part, and they also have some of the ships that they found from Roman times in this neighborhood. Shout out to the person yesterday that found that I was on a illegal bicycle path in one of the videos that I made a while ago for a few hundred meters. And I was not sure, so I looked at it, and yes, it was on. I got off quite quickly, so I can't remember if I noticed it when I was doing it, but yeah, everybody makes mistakes. On this bicycle I now did 15,000 kilometers, and yeah, everybody makes small mistakes. It's interesting that people catch them. Amazingly bad roads for a new neighborhood. So it might be a boring video unless you like sort of watching people riding in farmland. But like I said, I thought it was interesting to make it, maybe even for myself. So not sure if I will still be here and the YouTube will still be up. But I can imagine in 20 years that maybe some of the areas we are showing will be building areas. Like this area was when I was a kid. So the area that I live, Leidse Rijn, was basically built in the last 25 years. Before that it was farmland, and that's why I'm also, like I said, when we get into the farmland, I think it's better to show you some pictures and some Google Maps. I prepared that. And the point I'm trying to make. I'm currently in I would almost call it a fight, but with people on Facebook. This is not a good thing to do, but it's sometimes you can't help yourself. And it's about people in the inner city of Utrecht, which are car owners, which are complaining and saying everything is going too bad and it's terrible. To be fair, I think sometimes they also are a little bit how do I say this nicely, thinking that Utrecht should be for Utrecht people only. Let me put it like that. But their main argument is that in the inner city is getting worse and worse because they can't park their cars. I noticed I was going really slowly for the other one. I noticed that in the newer areas, it's not much of a discussion. So if you're in a city, or in this case a 900-year-old city, then the space was never built for cars. So in the 70s and the 80s, there was a lots of cars because they took over squares and other public spaces just to make parking. And that's been removed, and so people are complaining because the rights that they had to put their, well, not rights, but the luxury that they have to put their cars anywhere they wanted has been taken away. I noticed that in this area, like Leidse Rijn or where we just came from, is less of an issue because all the building projects normally would include either private space, like you see here, where you can park your car, or communal places where a building has built-in parking spaces. And so it's mostly the inner cities that are complaining that their rights are being taken away and bicycles are bad and stuff like that. It's interesting how people look at it, and I can imagine because when I was thinking back, my dad was always a gentle person. But like I told you before, he worked for a French car company called Citroën for more than 50 years. So we were really into cars, especially the old DS's, so the big Citroëns. And sometimes in the inner city, he could not park his car in front of our home, and we had to walk like 2 or 3 streets to get to the car. And later in his life, he moved about 600 meters to a new building which had built-in parking, and he bought 2 parking spaces, and he never completed also there. But it's interesting that people assume that I don't know what the problem is, because later in life, before they moved to the new home, they also started to ask for parking money and putting meters up. And of course you could get a permit to if you live there, but even then parking was really difficult. So I can see where people are coming from, but it's kind of an... So the discussion I'm having on Facebook is that not everybody feels like this. Car ownership, especially for younger people, is going down. Again, in these videos you see that there are lots of cars, and in my videos also in the city you see that there are lots of cars. But I think there's a shifting attitude that only a small group, especially in the inner cities, are complaining the most. So let's leave it at that. We just missed an interesting part because I was talking about cars, but if you go back, if you want to, you see that I'm aiming the camera a little bit at a stoplight because it has a timer, but you also notice that the timer doesn't go to 0, but once it knows that there are no cars coming from a certain direction, you see it jump to green really quickly. So we started to make it into the space that I wanted to show you. You can see the beginning of the farmlands. So pretty soon, I think when we are on a dirt road, I will start doing some overlays. Maybe I can already start it soon. So this is one of the highways. You can see it's quite a big highway, and when I show the picture it will be more clear. So maybe I should prepare the picture. Let me get on my app. So let me first show you what we are going to do today. I did kind of prepare it, but probably not good enough. But let's try. So I'll show you while we are next to the highway, getting into a side path, which I think I will wait until we're on the side path. So let me make the path big. That was the one that I want to show you, so let me go to this one. You can see that we are going to take a side tour on the not really a bicycle path now. I did that because I want to swirl around and show you most of the area. So if you're riding in farmland, you don't have to take an unpaved road like I'm doing now. You can see I'm clearly taking this route here, and I'm going to ride in the rough for a few kilometers. And like I said, when I show you the picture of what we are going to do, it makes more sense, which I will do now. So let me jump back to the iPad Big, so this one. And I can even have a pointer. We have not used this for a while, but you can see that. So we went over here and over there. And what I wanted to show you, I will show it a little bit later, is this is the new part of the city. This is the old part of the city, and this is the inner city with train stations. This is Nieuwegein, so that's an area that was already taken, but you can almost see there are 4 quarters, right? With the highway, massive highway in between. And the tunnel, which we have shown before, which is buried over here on this city part, is maybe also something we'll do here. So now my guess, of course, is that this area in the next 30 or 40 years would be the area that would be taken over for a new city part. So I decided to we are now over here, basically, so I will try to sort of loop around the whole place and then go back like this. That's what we are going to do. And yeah, I think that's a good idea. So that's what my plan is. And as you can see, we are now on this clear farmland with all the colorful sort of stripes. If you're in the Netherlands and you're more in the tulip areas, all these will be different colors and have these amazing views. Of course, over here it's less so. But you can see we are riding on this kind of rough surface, and I'm slowing down a little bit. Because of they fill it up, and sometimes there's glass there, so you have to be a little bit careful. But this is probably the worst road you're going to find into these farmlands, which are normally only used by farmers with their tractors. Sometimes you see a car. But this is not normal, I just wanted to point that out. So let me go to the other one again and open up Google to show you what I mean, but then in another way. So I'm now in Google Maps, and you can see we left from there, and what I wanted to show you is this part, right? So if I zoom in, you clearly see the 4 quarters, what I'm thinking about, and why I think that the area we are now in, so that's the left lower part, so basically this part, why I think that will be next, because you can see there's a really big sort of roadway, highway system there between the A12 and the A2. And yeah, the A2 is buried over there. And you can see the waterway. But you can imagine that they will take over this part of the city and make it grow. Because when we are talking about the street we were on, and we will be here later, you can see that there are of course homes along this farmland. You can see 2 of them, this is the biggest one. But you can imagine it would be relatively easy to convince these people to sell it, or if they don't sell it, they will just build around it at some point. And we shall also see that in my current neighborhood, that there are actually still old farms sort of hidden in the area. So let me show you one. I'm just sort of, while we're on this part, randomly showing you stuff. So let me show you an example, which I'm not sure is on this drawing because this might be too old. But here, for example, you see a farm which is still there. And I can promise you that this now all been filled in with real buildings. But that's the bridge. So another thing that might be interesting to see is, and I know that I'm zooming out quite a lot. So here you see the 4 main, almost, because oh, come on. Why is it not showing? Do you really want me to zoom out more? Oh. Not sure why it's not labeling Amsterdam. So basically you see the 4 cities, the main cities, The Hague, Utrecht, Amsterdam and Rotterdam in this picture. For some reason it doesn't want to tell Amsterdam in its name, and also Utrecht not, so that's kind of weird. Of course that's Utrecht, and here we go to Amsterdam over there. But if you look at these 4 areas, it's called the Randstad, and the idea is that over time they will probably become one mega city. Now I'm not sure how many years that will take, but in the middle there's really a big sort of green part that everybody expects that will stay, but you can sort of see how that would be together. And in this area there are they think there will be about 5 to 7 million people. So I think enough about the overlay, but you can see why we are going in this area and bike around. Well, we still can. So back to the other picture. We are still on this road. Clearly. It's been quite warm, about 28 to 30 degrees. But today it was, or yesterday it was about, and also today, it's about 24 max. And it was kind of cloudy, which doesn't look bad, but it was not full sun. And it even later became quite windy. But I think it's good we make one video like this, which kind of, you've seen hints of me riding to farmland, but not as consistently that I'm doing. You can also see far away, depending on where we are aimed at, you can see the city in the distance. I do notice probably for myself that probably lots of people in the Netherlands, we are quite snobbish about the bicycle paths, especially how nice it is to ride on. And I'm not sure if people really, if that translates until you are ridden on the really nice red, almost I wouldn't say soft, but more giving, very flat bicycle paths, compared to something like this or just normal asphalt. And in this ride, of course I can only tell you, in this case you can hear it, because you can hear and sometimes see me steer around potholes and listening things that might be glass. But the difference between the different road surfaces can be quite big, and even if something looks really nice, it might not ride as nice as some of the other stuff, which is, I guess, also interesting. And the proof is, let's knock on wood, but on these sets of tires I've already ridden 15,000 kilometers and I didn't get a flat so far, and hopefully that will stay for a while. Of course they are good tires and they're protected, but even then, not having a flat tire for quite a long time is maybe also a sign that our bicycle paths are on average quite good, and if you're careful you should be fine. So now we slowly are getting into the normal surface again. I say slowly because not fully yet, but you can hear already that the riding becomes better. So we are trying to sort of crisscross this quarter of the future city. I think I'm pretty sure that people who live there will be complaining about it, and it will be probably like a 20-year or 30-year project. I should have looked into it, but I didn't. Maybe I will do this after the video. This is useless for you, but if there are indeed plans to take over this quarter of the land, because logically it would make sense to do that. It's interesting that you see the stork nest. You can see still in the middle of that, in front of that house. And as a result, I'm not sure if there are compromises or just the flow of things, but many of these types of roads will stay even if there is cities, blocks surrounding it. So I think in the beginning of this video, when we got out of the park, that's a typical example. It feels almost that you are in a village while you are in the middle of the city, because they either compromised, didn't want to break these homes, and just left them there and then build around it. This is actually from a planning point of view quite brilliant, because you still have spots and lanes and small like 2 or 3 kilometer routes that feel very old, even if you are very close, like in a few hundred meters from new buildings. I would almost say that's also kind of typical in the Netherlands, because everything has to be close, and because, well, we are a small country. So now we are next to the highway again. As you can see, when I was talking about the size of these roads, these are quite big. They are 5 lanes each way most of the time. You can see, if people think we don't have cars, there are cars. Notice, except for the motorbike, that even on this distance they are quite quiet. So in many parts in the Netherlands they use special asphalt, which I'm also riding on, well, at least the part before, which is more absorbent for sound. It's also more expensive, so they don't use it everywhere. And they use other tricks, and I'm not sure if they do that a lot in other countries, but they do other tricks like making the highway higher or lower, even burying them. Not always in a tunnel, but just lowering them by 1.5 meters or something, to kill the sound, because sound doesn't like to travel around corners. Sound behaves kind of like light, not 100%, but kind of. So it really doesn't like to go around corners. So if you dig a road in for about 1 meter, 1.5 meter, it becomes very quiet in the neighborhood. And especially if you have bushes, not like this, because we are clearly next to a highway. But there are parts, maybe also on this route, where you kind of don't know that you're about 20 meters from a highway, because the sound is absorbed by ground, and they put some bushes and trees around it. You don't notice as much, but you can see clearly now the fields on my right in these squares, with of course a lot of I'm not sure what the English word for this, sloten. So aggregation to feed the land and the cows, stuff like that. He was mowing the grass. And again, in the overlay is a good example. On the left you see that that quarter is already built, while this part is not. The Netherlands also uses a lot of kind of, I would say, older, a lot of sound barriers like this. You can see it here. I'm not sure if this is true, but I'm guessing it's true that in the last 20 years they moved more to natural barriers and not really built barriers. So just using earth or digging a trench to put the road in. But again, let me show the overlay. If you compare where we are biking, then what we are seeing, it's totally different world, right? So we are very close to a major highway, but you don't get that feeling. Where are we going? Oh, we're going here. So as you can see on the overlay, I'm now sort of crisscrossing again, and we're going to do the long stretch. And this was the road that I showed in the beginning, where most of the homes are. So I would suspect that if, because these homes have probably been in the families for quite a while, that if they going to incorporate this into the bigger city, that this road will stay, and it will kind of be the same in 50 or 100 years. But then after these, in the farmland itself, it will probably be modern suburbs. Although I'm not sure if we want to call it a suburb, because it will be part of the city. But it gives you the weird result that this, I'm not saying it will be, but in 50 years it will still look the same, while you're kind of in the middle of the city. That's what happens in my neighborhood. And that's not because, well, maybe it is a bit, but I doubt it's because of that they feel it's nice to look at. It's probably more because it's easier to make deals with the owners of these places, that they will stop farming at some point, or be convinced to stop farming, but they don't want to leave their homes. So give up the land, but not the part where the homes are, which are clearly most of the time at the end of the fields, as you can see here in the overlay. So a big house like the upcoming house here might be turned into a nice restaurant in the future or whatever. Looks like a good place to have a restaurant, right? So this is a good example of outer city road. Quite long, but even here it has this special red asphalt, which dries really nicely. I'm guessing already like 15 years old or something, because it's already showing its age, and you feel it a little bit, but again, if you're new to these videos, objects look closer than they really are because of the wide camera. Realistically, the cars are not as scary. This one was kind of parking and then stopping and then going away because it was waiting for me to pass. Of course I have a mirror, well, not of course, but I have a mirror. So I was also looking at the mirror what he was doing. Normally most people would only be on these roads if they have business here or if they live here. So tell me in the comments if you enjoyed this type of video. It's different than the other ones because we are not in the inner city. But like I said, it might be become historically more interesting to have these videos, at least for me, to see how things were. Again, if we go to the top view, a typical sort of setup. Homes at the ends of the fields on a shared road, and then the farmland to the left and the right. That building might not be here in 50 years. I'm just yelling random stuff, but I did notice that there are almost no bunkers, so objects from the Second World War here. And on the other side of the city you see it quite often. It also tells you a little bit how both the Dutch and the Germans, when they took it over, were kind of thinking what would be the attack route. So clearly they didn't think that the attacks would be coming from this side, or they removed them all, I'm not sure. But in the other parts of the city, around the city, you see in these open fields quite often some bunkers and some old concrete structures as part of the defense. I will keep an eye out, but I don't think I've seen any here. And this is kind of what I miss if I'm in other European cities a little bit, is that everything is around here is green, mostly red bicycle paths and a blue sky. But not blue as in boring, but with clouds and structures. Maybe I'm just a little bit biased, but this was kind of interesting. Notice that the speed meter told me I'm going 23 kilometers an hour, which was correct, but it also picked up the car which was going at 60 kilometers an hour. I was impressed that it detected us both and also gave the correct speed. I think he was going 59 kilometers an hour and I was going 23 kilometers an hour, which matched my average speed, so it was probably correct. A little known fact is, at least in Europe, like with a car, also the bicycles, especially the bigger brands, for legal reasons they overestimate your speed. So a Bosch bike, which is the Bosch motor system, on average when you are going 25, it tells you you're going 26.5, 27. They kind of have a margin of error built in, always to the positive or the negative, to make sure that you stay within legal limits. So I'm pretty sure that my bike was telling me was going 25 kilometers an hour, while the speed measurement device next to the road was telling I'm going 23. I'm guessing that 23 was more correct. I know this because either the GPS information in the subtitles or the maps which I use after that will confirm that you're on average going about 1 or 2 kilometers slower than the bike's actually telling you. We didn't notice many farm tractors and objects. We did notice some cows, of course, sheep, horses. So yeah, leave it in the comments if you think these cars are scary. I never really think about it because again, the distance is farther than you think. But it is also true that these are probably the more dangerous roads, especially if the weather is bad or is dark. So these are not the most favorite paths that people will take in certain situations. And you can see why, because although most cars are very nice, nicely behaving, yeah, there's always weirdos and dangerous people or people who have something to drink on in their car. It does happen. So we are kind of at the end of the crossing again. So we are going to the left and trying to pick up the next crossing we want to do. Because remember, let me open up my iPad again, move back to that picture and press this button, then press this button and then press more buttons, so you can see that we are, I'm not sure where we are actually. I'm guessing we're over here, but we are kind of looping. So we just went over this road and we are now kind of over here, looping my guess, and we are going back over there. And then we are going through a park and slowly getting back home. This was actually a good example. This looks really nice, but it's the same material as the car road, and it feels different. Not bad, but it feels different than the red stuff. And I'm pretty sure that this is true, that we are a little bit more snobbish in complaining about this. It's also a little bit less wide than you would normally see if it would be totally newly designed, but you can see it was quite difficult to do here. So in new areas this would be about 1.5 times wider, especially if it's a two-directional bicycle path. So we're going to the left, and I got a little bit confused because I wanted to go the route over the harbor. I figured that we have to go that way, but we didn't, so I was later on a little bit. Of course, I trust the route that I set out using Commute. You can see it on my phone, which was not the plan, but you can see it. Of course, depending on the wind, I might sort of lean forward or backwards a little bit, and that's changed the angle. I'm pretty sure some people are bothered about seeing my hands and the steering bar, but yeah, maybe some people also think it's okay. Looking at my watch, guessing how far the recording already is. What was running on the road there? I'm pretty sure this will not be part of my regular bicycle route, which I have different ones. One I've been taking the last few days is about 42 kilometers. I will try to do that 2 times a day, but not always working. But I try to do about 50 to 60 kilometers on average a day. But this will probably not be part of my regular route because it's, I wouldn't say boring, but it's not the nicest bicycle paths. So the blinking of the lights in that car is actually an interaction with my camera. It's course there are not really blinking lights. Well, of course, just in case you didn't know. So again, you can see in the big picture, although in reality we can't see it, that there's some harbor at the top. And I figured I planned that part in, but I didn't, so that's why I'm looking. Oh, you don't see the harbor yet, so I'll keep it big. So you can slowly see it coming into view. And I figured I planned that into the route, but I didn't. So you can see me steer and then brake and sort of, okay, I guess I need to go this way, which was not what I expected. So we're going to side past the harbor, which is on the right. If you're interested in that, I think there's one called Harbor. I forgot what the name is, something. And so if you want to see that, I think I put it in the title. Let me find the name of the harbor, because I forgot. Marmemunde. Okay. When we go back, we will pass it a little bit, because there's also a ski jump over there. We actually see some paragliders. Marnemunde. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it. Look out for deer jumping the road. You don't see that often in this area, but that's what the sign said. That was probably closer than it should have been. Even though, again, let me repeat it, that things look way closer than they really are. And the same with the speed. If something is close by, it looks faster than it really is. Interesting sort of walk paths through the fields there, you see, into that wooded area. No, I was wondering what this was, because there was a lot of cars and also kids. It turned out, because I just could skim it, that it was a mini golf and pancake place. So Saturday, families with kids. The hotspot of the neighborhood. I can also see it on the map a little bit bigger, that indeed the mini golf was not a bad guess from my side, looking at it from the top view. Of course, when I'm biking I don't see that, so that's what I was guessing, but I guess I guessed correctly. Where are we? We are now in IJsselstein, which is probably the older part, because IJsselstein we have done a few bike rides through there, but you can see it on the top, sort of slowly. Well, let me have to wait a few seconds. You can sort of see it pop into to view. So that's also where the tram is still going, and from the other side this is slowly becoming part of the city of Utrecht, and I suspect at some point where they will hate hearing it will be part of Utrecht itself. You see that sort of on the top the different homes getting into view. Cars have to slowly get to 50 kilometers, and I think this will quite quickly go to 30 kilometers in the future. And the top view again will show you that what I mean, that we are slowly getting into a more neighborhood. This is a good example where it's an access road. You can see that each home has quite easy and good access to 2 cars, but it's a dead end for cars in general, so it's access only. But of course this is much better designed or structured than in the old inner cities, because you don't have to park your car on public roads, which is in the inner city what most complaining is about. So it's not it's more a design issue, and it makes sense in the inner cities because places were never designed for cars. That only started in the 40s, 50s, 60s. This was kind of interesting because you had to sort of find your way from bike lane to bike lane. This was partly because I wanted to go to the park area on our route back. So we are slowly getting to the route back. Maybe one more time show the other picture where I think we are. Well, you can of course check on the map itself, but why not? We have this on anyway. So I think we are now in IJsselstein, which, and you can also see what I mean, right? So this area is IJsselstein. So Utrecht kind of extends this way, but it left this hole in the middle. That's why we're bicycling, and we are now somewhere here and going back. And the reason I took the path in the beginning, this one, was so when I was going back I would actually take a different route. So we are slowly creeping up on this park area. That's where we want to get at before we really go back. This part we have biked before. I'm not sure in which video, but I'm pretty sure we biked this before. Most likely in the video where I was showing this nature part, which is not all healthy. They found out that part of the under the water there's garbage and also medical garbage, so it's okay for the birds and stuff, for fishing I guess, but it's not allowed to swim in this. As far as I remember, because I'm doing this at the top of my head. I think we will probably find signs that you're not allowed to swim. Because they are not sure if some of this medical garbage might start leaking in the future. Again, maybe somebody who's more known with this area will correct me that I'm wrong, but I think that was the deal. And compared to the other, even on this was 24 degrees, so it would be warm enough. Compared to the other water areas that I've shown you, there's no people swimming. And there's also no fake beaches created, which they normally would do in these kind of ponds. But you can see we are now in the middle of the water. Fishing is being done. So we can already see it a tiny bit. We are coming up to a paraglider, but also a ski ramp. There we see paraglider, and on the right through the trees you can see the ski ramp, and you see it slowly coming into picture there. It's right in front of us. I see a paraglider in front of us. And there we have the ski ramp. As you can see now, over there. See, they created a hill and then built a ski ramp on top of it. And the paraglider, because it's not that far, maybe he's still training, he landed and is now, I think, probably walking up again to do it again. I don't know what he was doing. So we are now slowly getting on our way back. We still have now 20 minutes or so. It was an okay ride. It's something different. But unlike some of the other areas outside of the city we visit, where you see a lot of, I would almost call it history, like the lake or some older fortress buildings. This is mostly farmland, so I wouldn't call it boring, but it is what it is. I'm not sure what it on our left is, right is. Lots of containers. So a building company, or it's quite big. And we can also see the red line at the top, where we are going to merge with where we already were. So we are kind of taking the same route back. And at some point we will pass the point where we side dirt to get into the dirt part. In the beginning. So the last video took me about 1.5 weeks before I put it online. This I will still try to do today, but it's quite a few steps that I need to do. Although some of it's been automated, it still takes, well, of course, at least in this case 1.5 hours to film it, then 1.5 hours to do the overlay and to watch it again and put all the other stuff in. So it takes me maybe 5 or 6 hours to make one of these videos. So sometimes life gets in between and it will lay ready for about a week or so, 2 weeks. And again, if you go to the big map, you can see the highway quite big on our side. And in front of us we see the different buildings of the city itself. Checking my watch again to see how many minutes I still have, because I already had a plan in my head that I wouldn't be changing battery, because I was pretty sure I would be on the same route back by then. And actually it was a maze, so I might have totally made it to the end. I'm only missing like 2 minutes. But it doesn't add any more value. Yes, I'm still here, I just don't have anything to talk about anymore. So upcoming we are going to detour from the old route because like I said, I didn't want to go over the dirt road again. That was the whole plan. So you can see on the map already that where we were, we are now going back on the same route, but you can see the slight arrow going up with the trees, and that we are going to follow that route. So I had to figure out what was the correct entrance of this road. But it was pretty obvious that it was this one. And here we go. So what you see more and more is these electrical mobility vehicles, and I think that's one thing I really like compared to some of the old ones. All these parts of course are becoming cheaper because of e-bikes and the better batteries and motors and stuff. So I would say 20 years ago you would mostly see them in the city, but people would not be really out and about like 10 kilometers or 15 kilometers from major areas. But they can do that much more easy now. Of course, everybody has mobile phones, so if something goes wrong, they can call somebody. But also the range of these vehicles is much better. So that's kind of cool to see. This was still kind of an old-fashioned looking one, but you see all kinds of interesting shapes these days, which I think is massively cool. Now I hope that I can ride my bicycle for a long time, but I wouldn't be if need be I would ride anything which is by then electrically driven, have some nice wheels on it and just go. And the fun part is that not all done, but if you're still able, you can still put in some power with either your arms or your legs, if that is still possible. I think these variations of let's say 2-wheel, 3-wheel, 4-wheel vehicles, especially with electric, is now becoming so much more interesting. And given that we have the infrastructure in our bicycle paths anyway, it gives people a lot of freedom in mobility. Now, of course, if you're in a wheelchair, for example, you can still use a car. It's not that it's impossible, but I can imagine, I'm not an expert in it, of course, but I can imagine that it gives a lot of freedom if you can do it in different types of transport. So yesterday I saw a wheelchair kind of construction. I think it was probably attached with an electric part at the front, but it also had quite a big sort of area for a dog. So it was somebody clearly in a wheelchair normally. And this was built on a wheelchair, I think. Maybe it was detachable, maybe not. But it sort of had a front part, the third wheel, with which you see quite often, but in this case with quite a big space for a dog sitting in front. I'm stopping. Why am I stopping? Because I wanted to make sure I was going to the direction. Then I couldn't see the display because of the sun. Oh, I'm drinking. Probably because I put cold water in there and I didn't take a sip so far, so I figured let's at least take one sip before the video is over. It also became more and more dark, and in fact when I got home about an hour later, although they didn't predict it, it started to rain. But you can see the clouds and you sort of go like, So here you see an example of a sound wall which they put lots of bushes around and on top of it. And like I said, now you have no idea, at least I don't, even from the sound. Listen. Difficult to see, and that we are this close to a road. Right? I hope and I imagine that the planners were thinking about this when they made it like this. Of course, it's also partly so that these homes don't hear the highway as much, and I think it works perfectly. or sometimes like the signs here, it gives you a hint that there is a highway. But again, you notice that it's about, I would say, 3 meters high. Again, sound doesn't like to go around corners, so you don't hear it as much. So we are slowly getting up to the area where we split off to the dirt road and getting back into the city area. So if you're watching this 25 years from now, so let us know if this is if this is now a totally built up area and part of the city. It's getting also more and more windy. If you can see the vegetation sort of blowing in the wind. A bit of darker clouds. It was giving the feeling that the weather was about to change. And we're getting up to the point where we cut off for the dirt road. And that means that we are also closer getting back into the city. So you can see already where we sort of split off before. Go into the farmland, and now we made it back to that point. Here's where we went off into the dirt road, which I'm of course not going to do again. And you can see sort of the complex structure that we created with our red line. And if you go under the highway, then we basically are re-entering the city. Now we'll keep going and try to make it all the way back, although I already announced that we are missing the last 2 minutes. I got my route planner confused again. Now we can see more of my bike, I guess. Again, I didn't plan it, but it happened. You can see we are riding for 1 hour and 13 minutes. It's 14. So I left way later. I left at 1 o'clock, I guess. I lied. The girls were looking at me because I was playing with my phone, and I didn't notice the green lights for at least 2 or 3 seconds, and I think they almost got upset with me. I give them some space and try to fix my phone. Yeah, now I got it. Or maybe they cut my camera and the fluffy on the back of my head with the microphone. I noticed that kids noticed the camera equipment way quicker than adults. I guess newer generations are trained to pick up cameras and stuff. I have to pause them again. So you can see in the top view that we are clearly in the city again. Or adjacent to the city, I guess. It's not sure if many people will call this Utrecht. Sometimes they still use the old names, so the Mirren in this case, or Vleuten, stuff like that. Over time, of course, that will slowly ebb away into neighborhood names. An American truck, quite big. Although for American standards, probably not that big. No. Dodge, right? Dodge. Pretty sure it's Dodge. Also interesting, you saw another of these you are going so fast route with a red or happy symbol or whatever. Is that something typical Dutch, or do you also see that in other countries? We have them quite often, so sort of like peer pressure by telling you that you're doing something correctly or incorrectly, or what your speed is. You see them, probably 2 or 3 on every ride. I don't like these quick sort of fake bike paths so that you don't have to take the car slowing down mechanism. Here is another one. I didn't even notice it, so now I'm kind of on the road where I'm not supposed to be, I guess, because then I had to come out of this one again. It's weird design. And even then the red color would have helped way more to make clear to me what I'm supposed to be doing. Because in this case you sort of go like, well, okay, I did see the sign that this is a bicycle path, but you see me doubt, and I don't know, it looked like a bicycle path to me. In fact, it's bicycles allowed, but it's not a bicycle path, because then here I get off, it becomes a bicycle path again. You see? Whoop. And this is the end of the video, kind of, because we are about to stop the recording. So thank you for watching, and see you next one, because around this corner is the last kilometer to the starting point.